Brian Hooker, maybe you can just encapsulate some of these questions I have, kind of rapid fire. How many days and hours over what span did you speak to Dr. Thompson? Have you spoken to him since he knew you recorded him? How do you act about that? Will you be surprised if he recants or recasts what he said?
I spoke to Dr. Thompson over a period of 10 months, approximately from November 2013 until September 2014. When he found out that I had actually recorded him, and I went from my home state of California, where it's illegal to do what I did, and drove up to Oregon, which was about 2.5 hours away, he laughed uproariously. He thought that was the funniest thing in the world. Unfortunately, Dr. Thompson has been handled and will most likely submit a revised version of his analysis and try to absolve the MMR vaccine in May of 2016. This is typical of what we've seen of the CDC. The CDC analyzes data, and when they see an effect that they don't like, they reanalyze data and the effect goes away. The CDC has done this historically, from Agent Orange to thimerosal, now to the MMR vaccine. And so I did not want this to come, but I certainly anticipated that while he was in the CDC, the day would come. In exchange for what Dr. Thompson is doing, I believe, and this is a little bit shaky, but I believe that he will get his own Autism Research Foundation. And so there has been some very, very dubious activities that went on. Because he stayed in the CDC, he also got a major cash award from the CDC for maintaining his employment. He said until he qualified for retirement, but there are a lot of things that have happened since the last conversation that I had with Dr. Thompson, which was in September of 2014. And I do want to warn you, and I do want to anticipate this, but again, it's the same thing that we've heard and we've seen from an agency that's been completely captured by the pharmaceutical industry and is there not to tell the truth, but in order to manipulate the public, in order to do what they think the best thing to do is for society.
Senef, you're a research scientist. Can you comment on the conflicted research environment, whether it's in medical schools or universities? Have you been part of that world or made observations about it?
The research environment is definitely geared towards be quiet about anything that's not going to support the pharmaceutical industry and the agrochemical industry. I am especially concerned about the agrochemical industry, which is really also part of that same mafia. They are making sure that the research doesn't happen that shows that their products come to harm. And I'm very concerned about the food in this country and the contamination of the food with the chemical glyphosate, which is in Roundup, and Roundup is pervasive in our environment, and its usage on crops has gone up exponentially in step with the exponential rise in autism. It's a perfect match. I think that the glyphosate is working synergistically with the MMR vaccine to cause harm. And this is why the MMR vaccine has much more, we have like 6 times as many hospitalizations in the second half of the data compared to the first half. And many other symptoms are much more common, statistically significantly more common in the second half compared to the first half. And that's because the second half is when we have a lot more glyphosate, I think. So that's the angle I'm working on. I am working, with a group of people who are mostly retired. People who actually are getting paid to work in academia typically don't dare go into the space that I'm going into right now. Particularly Monsanto is a very big threat. I mean, the entire pharmaceutical industry, as we've said here, making sure that that research doesn't happen. So I'm, I get a lot of, if you search my name on the web, you'll find plenty of people saying that I'm not credible, I'm a quack, I exaggerate, all these kinds of things that they want people to believe that they can ignore my message because I don't count. I mean, I'm not credible. That's the message. That's what they do with anybody who dares to stand up to them. And I am extremely concerned, as you saw in the movie, about the future of this country. the tragedy that's happening with our children is just unbelievable to me. And the fact that the industry, that the government says this is not a problem, I do not understand that. Most of the research on autism is going towards genetics because that's a safe topic. The chemical industry is absolved. Oh, these kids had some kind of gene, it caused their autism. They want you to believe that so that you can't point a finger at all these chemicals that are in our environment and that are destroying our children. And the vaccines are a big part of it, and I think the food industry is also responsible with all the chemicals that they use to control the weeds, to control the insects. These toxic chemicals are getting in the food and they are causing harm.
Tommy, I want you to be able to say anything you want, but I'm going to start by asking, one thing I've heard from parents of autistic children is their concern about who will care for my child when I'm gone. They start to realize as the child's teenager and above, maybe they figured out how to manage, maybe the best word, their life with this child or now adult, but they wonder who will do this when I'm gone. I mean, I'm sure, and you've addressed this before, but that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's every parent's fear of what's going to happen when we're not around. And I have to say, actually, that brings me on to a very good subject, because for the first time in 18 years, our family managed to spend a few days together. We couldn't bring Billy or Kent, our new member of our family, because they both have vaccine injury, and that's the way it goes with it. But sitting in the audience are Bella and Toby. And I think that people don't realize the effect on siblings is huge. In fact, it's I think worse for them than it is for the parents, because they see their brother and sister and the pain of their brother and sister and everything that goes through with the medical damage there. And then on top of it, they see their parents, the bit where we're so exhausted that we snap at them, the bit where we unconsciously tell them they have to do well because their brother can't do well. The constant pressure on siblings around the world is something that's not covered and needs to be covered. And the answer to your question is many siblings feel that they will be the lifelong carers when we're not around. I had one young man write an article saying, "Who will ever marry me when I will be living with my very severe autistic brother?" My son Toby once said to me, "Is there any point going to college, seeing as I'm going to be looking after Billy?" Yes, there is big point in going to college. And just while I've got the audience here, I see in front of me the very best minds and brains and parents with fantastic organisations, and every single one of them has the same story as we have, and they could be sitting right here in this chair saying the same thing as me now. And please, can you stand up, because this is about you. We've made this film with your help. So,